All right, what's up, everybody? We are back here again for week number 11 of Backyard Bookies. Second take of this. Joined with me, as always, is my co-host Scott. Scott, I had a punishment to pay off after losing the month of October. It was to eat this fire wings from the fine establishment of Tumble 22. But because we had some internet issues, I've already bitten into it. I am starting to struggle here. So I'm gonna eat this throughout the show. I'm winning 3-1 to start November, so not great for you. But let's just get into it before I die over here.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like your pitch and your speed's kind of quick right now.
It's
Everything's
getting
kind
a
of
little hot.
going a little
Starting to
crazy.
sweat.
So
Starting to
love to see
sweat.
it. Yeah, love to see it after a bad month for you last month, but terrible week for me last week. But yeah, I guess we'll get right into it. For my first pick, I took Oklahoma 2 weeks ago with the over against Maine. That won in about 2.5 quarters. Oklahoma was going crazy on them. They're playing a team in Missouri that is not as good as we think. They are ranked; they're 24th. Um, but I feel like both teams might score a little bit of points here. I really like the over 41.5. Last three, Missouri has been struggling to score. They put up 0 against Bama and then 21 against Auburn. Got an under against UMass, but put up 45 in that one. Um, then 10 against A&M. So a little bit of a struggle in 3 of those 4 games at least 3 decent opponents. But I'm hoping that Oklahoma kind of found their groove a little bit with their quarterback coming back. I mean, 41.5 isn't a crazy number. We saw in the A&M game last week, 2020 at halftime. Obviously, there was probably some holding, as we know, but yeah, I feel like they can cover 41.5. That's what 6 touchdowns. I can probably get that done. So I'm going to take the over 41.5. Just hope for at least a marginal amount of scoring.
Yeah, that was an interesting game. I actually looked at this one. It kind of felt, I don't know, it felt a little small. It's 3, I think, the line in this one. So it's kind of like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to do with Oklahoma. I don't know what to do with Missouri either. I wouldn't touch this one. For my first game, through the heat over here, starting to feel good. Yeah, I've been riding this team the last few weeks, and I think I'm going to stay with the hot hand. We got Michigan going to Indiana. Indiana has been kicking the shit out of everybody, and they don't have a real test on their hands. Ohio State's coming up here. That'll be the one game. Michigan is not a test this year. Michigan is bad. Michigan is.
The hiccups going over there?
Yeah, we're struggling. Okay, we're struggling. Okay, Michigan is bad. 5-4 on the season, not good. I'm pretty sure you're playing quarterback for them this weekend if you're available. I don't know. I mean, I guess it was semi-close to Oregon. They didn't get completely embarrassed, but it wasn't good. They didn't cover, that's for sure. Indiana, they've covered everything. They are perfect. They've won 8 in a row. They didn't cover week 1. They've covered every game since. It's not a great number, but it wasn't a great number last week, and they beat the shit out of Michigan State. Why not dominate the state of Michigan? Indiana ranked in the first college football playoff. They are in the dance, as we know. Let's go, Indiana. It's 14.5, I believe. Don't care. We're just going to keep riding with the hot hand. Like, just ride a team until they don't cover. Indiana, minus 14.5.
Yeah, like you said, ride the hot hand. India has failed to not has not failed. I guess not failed. I can't talk right now.
They
Uh,
cover.
they
They
cover
cover
every
football
game. Yeah,
games.
for the first game, like you said. So, like you said, might as well keep running on them. 14.5, the half points kind of. We'll see, but I mean, they've been rolling.
Sig knows. Sig knows the line. Sig will cover if he can.
Yeah. For my second game, I actually wrote down next to it. Am I missing something? Um, Iowa State, Kansas. I looked at this game. I'm like, what the hell is this line? Um, in this case, normally I take the one that's the non-obvious choice, but that's kind of burned me a couple times this year. Taking the Vandy after the Alabama game to not win that one, or at least not cover that one. I'm gonna. For some reason, it's only 3 points. It is at Kansas, but Kansas has been terrible, 2-6. Um, they have covered the last 2, but only won one of those against Houston. Did pretty well against them, but Iowa State coming off a decent Texas Tech team. They lost that game, but otherwise rolling pretty good. They did fail to cover the last two, but um, I guess really I'm kind of just looking more of the head-to-head. Last 2 years, it's been Kansas covering the last two, and then before that, 59-7. Iowa State got that one pretty good, but Iowa State pretty good. I hope not. Hope their quarterback's playing or something. If Rocco's not playing, maybe that's why. I have no idea, but um, line just seems really strange. I think could be a weather thing. Nope, 62 and cloudy. So not really even a weather thing. So I'm gonna take the better team just to cover 3 points. Iowa State -3. It just seems like it's not enough points. So
Yeah,
uh,
I looked. I don't see anything. I agree with you. I saw this game and I was like, what? Something like the quarterback's got to be hurt. Something. Iowa State, obviously, people thought they were good. It was a bad game against Tech. The Big 12's kind of a goofball conference. Kansas is playing a little bit better, but they've been pretty bad this season, especially with the quarterback play. So I'm with you on this one. I don't get it. Maybe it's a rat, but you're trying to say let's ride with the rats have been pretty good this year. We've smelled
yeah,
rats, and the rats have taken care of business. Speaking of a former rat game, South Carolina going to Vandy. Vandy is quite dandy. My upset last week. I've been picking a lot of Vandy. South Carolina coming off a huge emotional win. They finally got their top 10 win that they've been begging for this season. Now they got to go to a hostile, and I mean hostile environment in Nashville. Vanderbilt has turned into the most fun team to watch in the country with Diego Pavia. They just kind of grind out games, pick up dubs, but they're getting 3.5 points here at home. I think South Carolina is going to be spent. I think they busted all their energy, and they kind of fit into how Vanderbilt wants to play football. They want to play these kind of grindy, run the ball games, can't really do too much. South Carolina's front line is good, but there were some holes. There were holes. There was availabilities if you run on the outside. It's not like Vanderbilt is a inside the tackles running team. This is all about the options, all about the reads. And they'll catch you out there. So they're going to use their speed to their advantage, try and make that D-line over pursue. And I just love Vanderbilt at home getting over a field goal. It's a big number for me right here. That 3.5 makes it critical. And Vanderbilt's been great all year. They cover, they've been covering everything. I think they're 7-2 ATS on the season, and one of those non-covers was against Ball State within the last 5 weeks. But other than that, taking care of business, getting 8. They win outright, getting 17 against Texas. They covered that game, lose by a field goal, beat Kentucky, beat Bama. I just don't see it. I think South Carolina on the road, seen them be good, but not great, getting blown out a couple times. I'm going with Vanderbilt, getting 3.5 at home.
yeah. I think I looked at a stat last week. A&M. I think they had like 27 missed tackles. So yeah,
It's not
I
great.
think South Carolina winning by 24, obviously kind of a little fluky. I mean,
It was a
South
10-point
Carolina.
game in the fourth quarter, realistically, like that.
I mean, it was still pretty much an abysmal showing in the first
Yeah.
half. It was the defense was just terrible. I don't think Vanderbilt's going to come out and look that flat. Especially they'll be looking at the tape for the A&M game and probably seeing what they should not do and not do that.
Don't do that.
The quarterback, I forgot what his name was. I guess Cam Newton in this case. I think he might get stopped a little bit. Definitely won't do what he did on A&M. And Vanderbilt's, they'll be at home.
Yeah,
So I
Sellers
mean,
is good. Sellers is good, man. He's a
really,
freshman. He's built like Cam Newton. He needs to go back to the rec specs. He used to have the rec specs. He needs to go back to the rec specs, and I'd feel a little bit more heat from him. But yeah, I don't think we're gonna see a similar
that won't happen
performance.
again. So
Yeah.
definitely like Vanderbilt, and they're -3.5. Or
Yeah,
they're
no,
getting
they're getting 3.5 at
yeah,
home.
I definitely take that. It's even if they don't end up covering that, I'd still feel like I'm not taking the worst team. So for my third one, excuse me, kind of it's against what we did last year. We were taking Iowa unders all year, and they were hitting. This year, Iowa's 8-1 with the over, which is just insane. I guess their quarterback play is much, much better. They benched Cade McNamara. He's done. He's a bum. He's out of there. Um, and I think Garbers, I believe, is a quarterback for UCLA. And I think he did pretty well last week. He played Nebraska 27 points last week. Yeah, Iowa scored 42 last week, 40 before that, 20, 40, and then the dud against Ohio State. Really good team. They kind of throw up duds if they were to play a Penn State or any other top tier Big 10 team, it'd probably be the same way. But yeah, I like the over in this one. I have a 44.5 on this one. I think it's up to 45. So a lot of overs are being taken. Like I said, 8-1 is the record for Iowa with the overs. 3-5 with UCLA. So hoping UCLA scores a bunch. They are favored, I believe. Yep, favored by 6.5. So at least a touchdown better. So yeah, like the way UCLA is playing, especially last week they beat Nebraska, which they're kind of on a little tailspin. But yeah, I like the number itself. 44.5 isn't too bad either. So we'll take the over in this one.
All right, I like it. Iowa overs have been pretty good this year. I think we bet a couple Iowa's overs earlier.
Yeah, you did early on, I think, actually.
Or early in the season. I was zagging before everyone caught on to it. For my third bet, probably I don't know, maybe the premier game of this weekend. There's a couple of good games this weekend. Bama and LSU going to Death Valley. The line currently sits at a very interesting 3 for the Tide in Death Valley. And both these teams coming off a bye. Both these teams have a couple of losses, but I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in the total here. We are at 58.5 on the total. That is a whole lot of points to be scored in this game. Now, Alabama's defense has had their issues. They've had their struggles earlier in the season. But the last few weeks, Bama has kind of woken up. Only gave up 24 to Tennessee. It's not horrible. It's not great, but a shutout of Missouri prior to the bye. 25 against South Carolina. That's okay. LSU, they were dominating that first half against A&M. They just weren't ready for a mobile quarterback. They're going to be ready for a mobile quarterback this week. I think in Jane Milroe, we saw him ready for the mobile quarterback at Arkansas the week prior. I'm liking an under here, man. I'm thinking 58.5 is a little bit too much in this game. I think we're going to have a lot of running of the football, not a whole lot of conversions. The big plays do scare me a little bit because I do think both of these teams could give up some home run balls to the wide receivers. But if we keep things in front of us, I think it turns into an ugly game. I mean, if you think about these LSU-Alabama matchups, I mean, we have a 9-6 game in overtime one time? I mean, like, this rivalry is just known for defense.
Early college, I think, yeah.
Yeah, it's known for defense. I think we're going to see more of a defensive performance, and 58.5 is a pretty big number. So even if we get to a 24-21 game with some points scored, I'm still clear comfortably there. So I'm going to take the under in this one, under 58.5 for the Bama and LSU game.
I think the Tennessee Alabama game is kind of scaring you a little bit to take the under, but the one that you took, I guess, 2 weeks ago.
I took the over on that one, so we're going under, exactly. Baby.
Kind of scaring you off that, but yeah, 4 of the last 5 have been overs, so that's a little scary. They've kind of won by quite a bit. 70 last year, 63 the year before that, 2014, and then
we're not having this. We're not having this.
41. So a lot of points scored in these games, but definitely not the teams that they were in. The Joe Burrow and Jaden Daniels and all of the Alabama teams.
Garrett Nussmeier, don't scare me there for LSU.
They're not those teams. So I don't blame you taking the under in this one. I think it looks like most of these are in the 60s. I'm pretty sure 58.5. It could be safe. So for my honorable mentions, I have a few of them here. Penn State minus 13.5 versus Washington State. I think it's more of I like the 13.5. It's 14.5. Might not take it. It might have changed so far. I haven't looked, but when I got it, was 13.5. Penn State, not great last week in Happy Valley, but they'll come back and have another home game against Washington. I think they'll bounce back and play well. Big game in Salt Lake City. Got BYU and Utah. I'm like BYU minus 4 in this one. I just hate Utah quarterback. Quarterback play is just awful. And then you look at the BYU. He's just slinging it, and 4 points doesn't seem like nearly enough. Utah defense usually pretty good, but just doesn't feel like a Utah team that's going to come out and tear it up like they have in the past. Oregon minus 25 at home against Maryland. Oregon's been covering a lot, so I like this one. 25 is a lot, but they're pretty dynamic, and feel like they can, probably beat up Maryland. They're also flying across the country. Jacksonville State, weirdly
Oh,
enough, is not playing on a Tuesday or Wednesday this week. They are -10 against Louisiana Tech. I think they've covered in the last 4. But yeah, it's not a midweek game. It's actually a Saturday game, so that's kind of strange. And then the last one, Texas Tech +3.5 against Colorado. I think, Colorado coming in. I think that's actually in Boulder, so maybe not quite as
I think they're in
confident in
Lubbock.
that
They're
one.
in Lubbock. They're in Lubbock. They're in
Oh,
Lubbock.
against Sierra on Lubbock. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the other way around. I feel pretty confident about that with obviously Shadur and Travis Hunter going into Lubbock. Lubbock's not a fun place to play if you're an opponent. So and Texas Tech, they can come out and score a bunch of points, but they also have duds as well. So like we've been saying, the Big 12s are
It's chaos conference.
the
The
Wild
chaos
West.
conference.
So for my dog, unless you want to go over your,
I go over my honorable mentions real quick. Notre Dame -26 against Florida State. They've been actually covering a lot of games. Notre Dame. I know that, and Florida State sucks. Washington +13.5 against Penn State in Penn State. Just the Penn State offense was abysmal. I just find it hard to cover those 2 touchdowns. I actually also liked Oregon -25 against Maryland. I kind of was the other way. I think Colorado -3.5. I lean towards. I think the hook is what scared me off. Colorado's played really well, and they've run the football pretty effectively. I'll be interested to see how they look coming off a bye too. But if Colorado's going to shit the bed, this is the game to do it. So I am a little bit nervous about that. But I do think they are the better football team overall. So go ahead. What is your dog for us this week?
Well, you covered this game already. We're going back to Bama LSU.
Okay.
I like LSU to win this game. They're only +125. It's only a 3-point spread. Didn't pick a nearly as big of a line as I usually do, but I just didn't go in through. I went through all the games, 2 or 3 times. I just couldn't really find one that I really, really felt confident in, except for this one. Obviously, LSU didn't do well against our team, but they also were not, practicing for a running quarterback, so they got absolutely killed against us. Much different. They know their quarterback going in. They know Milroe going in. They are at home. Scary place to play. Death Valley. I think Nussmeier comes out and slings it around a little bit. Like you said, I think it's going to be lower scoring than the total says, but I feel good about the +125. I would take it in Vegas, which I'm going to take the +3, but Bama's not what they used to be. LSU is also not what they used to be. It's not going to be as marquee of a matchup as we've had in the past. But I'm taking go Tigers. Jay probably loves his pick, +125.
I would pick against this just because of Jay, but yeah, I like it. Home team getting points in a big crucial game, and both teams feel kind of similar to each other. Yeah, I like this pick. Again, I think you hit it on the head. It was hard to find a good kind of upset this week. Not a lot of close games, not a lot of teams that I felt like had a lot of juice. I'm going to go with the other big SEC game, Georgia at Ole Miss, and Ole Miss getting 2.5 at home. They are +115 as we currently stand. And I think Georgia's just been flirting with a little bit too much fire the last few weeks. Carson Beck has been atrocious. I know Florida is a little bit better than what they started out as, but I mean, if DJ doesn't go down, does Georgia win that game? I'm not so sure because the defense kind of took over. Carson Beck is bad, man. Like 3 interceptions against Florida. Like, what do you have? 2 against Texas. Felt like he had 2. I mean, he's just turning the football over way, way, way too much. And Ole Miss and Lane Kiffin, as much as a goofball and a POS he is, they felt like they were on a mission last weekend at Arkansas, hanging 63, saying we want a primetime night game for our students. I think this is a spot the SEC feels as wide open as it's ever been. I don't think there's anybody great in the conference this year. A lot of good, a lot of flaws. So I'm going to go with the Rebels here. They're good in usually big spots. They have their letdowns against bad teams, but I think they show up in this game, and I think Carson Beck's turnovers are just too much. Ole Miss offense is way, way, way too potent to be giving them free possessions. They're not going to be able to keep up with them. I like a higher scoring affair. The total is 54.5. If you want to roll it with Ole Miss, I like the over as well. I think we try and get into a shootout, and Georgia just cannot quite hang with the Rebels. So I'm going to go Ole Miss plus 115 as my upset of the week.
Yeah, I like that one too. Like you said, Carson Beck has been atrocious. They are playing at the Grove as well. One more very, very tough place to play. Jackson Dart's been really, really good this year too. So he's been slinging it around. I think he's top 8 for the Heisman, maybe. So
he's had a very good statistical season, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't hate this at all. At some point, I feel like Georgia's going to have a big letdown. Obviously, the loss against Bama, but they haven't covered in their last 4 wins, except for the Texas game, and they played 3 awful teams. So with Florida, Mississippi State, and Auburn. So this might be the spot that they end up losing. So I do like that pick.
All right, let's run through your picks again. I am struggle busting over here before I actually die. And let's go. We'll wrap this thing up.
8 -3 against Kansas. Like I said, what am I missing? I don't understand that one at all. Iowa and UCLA over 45.5. Like I said, Iowa 8-1 on the overs, and LSU plus 125 against Bama.
All right, I got Indiana minus 14.5 against Michigan. I got Vandy plus 3.5 at home against South Carolina. LSU and Bama in Death Valley over 58.5, and Ole Miss at plus 115 at home against the Georgia Bulldogs. That's going to do it for us this week. If you haven't already, drop a quick like on this video, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel to support my pain and maybe see Scott's pain next month because he's losing November. I'm redeeming myself for this one. Again, if you haven't already, like, subscribe, and share. If you want to check out one of these games live, see your team, head on over to SeatGeek.com. Use code AfterTheReview for $20 off your first purchase. That's SeatGeek.com. Code AfterTheReview, $20 off your first purchase. All right. Like, subscribe, and share.
Go get some milk. Go get some milk.
We'll see y'all tomorrow.